Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Constitutionalists, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Dan Clements Show, a Christian political talk show. This is episode 786. I'm your host, Dan Clements, your constitutional warrior fighting for your right just to be an American. It is April 26th in the year of our Lord 2017. Remember, we're a hyphen-free, PC-free zone. God is still in control, and he does love you. And I'm broadcasting live from the Hemlock Studios here in the beautiful central Susquehanna Valley in the great Keystone State. Sitting before the great John Wayne desk. I haven't said that in a while. I want to get some pleasantries out of the way to begin with. Again, this episode of the show is being brought to you by Rocky Mountain Brands Drink. This is their iced tea. It's got a little lemon in it. It's got 100 milligrams of hemp oil in it. I've been finding that hemp oil helps me to relax a little bit and calm my muscles down so I don't hurt as much with my fibromyalgia. And I'm not saying this to cure all. I'm just saying it seems to be helping just a little bit. So, and this is the official drink of the Dan Clements Show, besides my coffee. I still take my caffeine naturally through my coffee. But this is really good drinks, really good brand. They're an up-and-coming small cap stock. And I am invested in them, just to give you full disclosure. But this is, again, the official, it's not soft drink, but official drink of the Dan Clements Show. All right. And the reason why I'm trying to get the pleasantries out of the way, let me just type in here in my YouTube channel chat room. The chat room is up at YouTube. If you're at Blog Talk Radio, I have the chat room up there also. In the chat room, but I normally just watch the YouTube one. It's kind of hard to go back and forth between the two screens all the time. And, excuse me, that one sort of slipped out on me. And we have a good show set up for you today. I have been trying. I'm not a reporter. I'm not a journalist. I'm a political commentator. And the AP, Julia Pace, or Julie, however she pronounces her name, at AP, it's Julie Pace, interviewed Donald Trump on April 23rd. Let me get some more of this natural caffeine in here so it wets my whistle, so I don't have to cough anymore. All right. She interviewed President Trump on April 23rd. They put a transcript out. AP put a transcript out of the interview. I had to stop and think for a second. Of the interview. Huffington Post ran a story that was edited by Alana Horowitz Satlin, Satlin. And they ran the story entitled 7 Baffling Moments from Donald Trump's AP Interview. I read through the transcript. It's hard to read through. And it does seem like Donald Trump's confused in the transcript. So, being the skeptic, being the media skeptic that I am, I wanted to see if there was an audio or video of this. I assume there's just an audio of the interview that I could listen to and compare it to the transcript. Oh, folks, trust me, I searched. I emailed Associated Press, as of the beginning of this broadcast, they have not got back with me. I have tweeted Julie Pace, and let me check over here. I have the notifications up. No new notifications up from Julie Pace. So I haven't heard back from her. I did hear back from, I tweeted Alana, Horowitz, Satlin, and we had a little short tweet conversation, and I'll share that with you momentito. But what prompted this whole thing was some of my Facebook antagonists, led by Kimberly Eaton, ran with this, saying, Article 25 of the Constitution needs to be invoked. He's mentally ill. We're in danger of the country blowing up because Donald Trump, I'm exaggerating, but blowing up because of Donald Trump is in the White House. And these Kimberly Eaton and her, and I'm going to just call them her minions, because they come out of the woodwork whenever I make a comment on one of her postings. And I don't, my wife says, why are you even messing with, just block her? I says, I don't block people. Unless they're very, very vulgar, profane, stuff like that. I just don't block people. I don't believe in that. So, her minions started attacking me, and I'm not going to go over everything they said. They were accusing me of accusing them of thinking they weren't the smartest people in the world, that they're uneducated. And I've never said that they're uneducated. Whenever I interact with them, I sometimes tell them they're misinformed or ill-informed, but not uneducated, because most of them have college degrees. And, which, my views on that. I don't care if you have a college degree, but, those that have, most people have college degrees don't usually throw that up in your face all the time when they're discussing things with you. Don't bring that out all the time when they're discussing things with you. So I have been since Monday trying to track down at least audio, if not video, of this interview, and have been unable to do so. So I entitled the show, Where is the Audio Video of AP's Interview with President Trump? Simple question. I haven't been getting any answers, folks, at all. Now, I don't propose to be a member of the lamestream media. I am not a journalist. I am a political commentator. I commentate from a Christian point of view. That means I don't attack people. I attack the issues. I want to discuss the issues, and I don't degrade people because they think one way or another. I think we can have an earnest discussion, debate, whatever we want to call it, when people differ. But in the final analysis, folks, and maybe this is just a competitor coming out of me, in the final analysis, there has to be a right and a wrong. You just can't walk away from something. Well, we just have to agree to disagree. That drives me nuts, because there is a right and a wrong. There are factual things, and there are non-factual things. And this whole story with the interview with Donald Trump and the transcript that was put out stinks to high heaven. And we'll talk about that a little more. I told Lori, I said, I don't know if I stumbled onto anything here this morning. And anybody that's listened to the show any amount of time knows that I'm not a Trump apologist. I just think you need to be fair with all people. And right now, the lamestream media and their minions are not being fair with Donald Trump. People out there and I do want to show you this. I wasn't able to get to it yesterday. And I do want to show you this as soon as I get over there. This is, those of you watching YouTube, this is a pictogram, I guess, of the Overton window. And if you look, and Ronald Reagan had a speech, he didn't believe that there's a left or a right. He believed that there was an up or down. And I don't know if he was actually talking about the Overton window or not, but I like to think he had that concept in his mind. And I'm almost of the same mind that left and right, I don't care. Up or down is what I care about. And if you look at the graphic on YouTube, it's more freedom at the top and less freedom at the bottom. And the same thinking is on both the top and the bottom: unthinkable, radical, acceptable, sensible, popular, and policy. And then it goes down towards the bottom: popular, sensible, acceptable, radical, and unthinkable. And so I'm starting to look at politics in view of the Overton window where, like Ronald Reagan said, there's no left or right, it's up or down. Either you're for freedom or you're not for freedom. Either you're for more freedom or you're for less freedom. And what's happening with politics today is folks are actually going down towards the less freedom, especially Kimberly Eaton and her minions, especially folks like Alana Horowitz Satlin on Huffington Post and possibly Julie Pace. If we can't get an audio, I don't care how poor the audio is. I have a program, I have Audacity on here. I can clean things up so we can hear things on it. I just want the audio to compare to the transcript because I'm not willing to go along with what those that are for less freedom in the country are saying about Donald Trump, that, like Kimberly Eaton, he needs an Article 25, he's mentally ill, incompetent, the whole nine yards. Based on, and they base it on more than just this transcript, but they're basing it on this transcript. And my question to those folks on Facebook is, have you heard the audio to it yet? Well, no. Everybody I asked, no, I haven't heard an audio to it. A gentleman on YouTube named Ben Dixon, he has a YouTube channel show. I do caution you, he does use profanity. I didn't hear a lot, but he does use profanity, so I want you to go into that. And I'm not going to link to his show because of that. I just don't want to link to it. But Ben Dixon's his name, and he did a whole show based off the transcript. And I asked him, and I haven't got anything back from him yet. At least I don't. I'm going to look over here and see. No, I haven't got any messages back from Ben yet. But I asked him if he had a copy of the audio for this transcript. And I haven't heard back from him. And again, on these different YouTubes that Julie Pace put out on the AP, I went down to comments and asked if there was an audio or video that I could get a hold of, that I could compare it to the transcript. Again, nothing back yet. Like I said, I've been waiting patiently on Twitter to see if she's getting back with me, and she is not. So like I said, I don't know if I stumbled onto something here, and I don't think I did. I don't think this is groundbreaking news here. But I want to show this as an example of how those that want less freedom in the United States are smearing those that they disagree with, those of us who want more freedom in the United States. And those that want less freedom, they want more government. They just go hand in hand. And those of us who want more freedom, we want less government. And I made a statement on Facebook to this one lady that she went through. And look, folks, I don't care what you post on Facebook as far as your diatribes, your rants, and your raves. But Facebook was never meant to have. I think I counted 6 full paragraphs. And she was very incoherent in each paragraph. She was mixing ideas almost in every paragraph, repeating stuff she said up at the top paragraph. And to me, that was a rant and a rave. And almost everything she said in there about Donald Trump could be disputed, or has been disputed and been debunked. And a lot of times, my Facebook antagonists, they rely on fake news. And as far as fake news goes, it could be a true news story from the get-go. I'm not saying they're not. But what makes it fake is if it cannot be corroborated. What makes it fake is if you don't have a second source confirmation. And that's what we call it here at the Dan Clements Show. When I get researchers to help me set up the Constitutional Warrior website, that's going to be a news website, and it's going to be a news aggregator. And I'm actually going to have, eventually want to have some of my own journalists on there, and whether they're freelance or they're working directly for me to write original content on there. I will never, ever accept stories that don't have a second source confirmation. To me, that's media suicide, but not in this day and age. And I'll show you some of the comments that Miss Satlin shared with me. Today's daily Bible reading comes from the book of Psalms, chapter 118, verses 22 through 24. The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. This was the Lord's doing. It is marvelous in our eyes. This is the day of the Lord he has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. We sing a children's song based on that 24th verse there. But the psalmist is talking about Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, is the stone which the builders rejected, has become the chief cornerstone. He told Peter, he says, upon this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And the rock he was talking about, Peter had just, if you keep things in context, the verse before talked about his faith. That, Christ, in Peter's mind, proved that he was the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus said, on this rock I'll build my church. Not on Peter, but on his confession of faith, on that rock of faith that he'll build his church. So see how you miss, if you don't go, we talked about this yesterday, see how you miss things if you don't go back and read the Old Testament and see these things and see how in the Old Testament talks about Jesus Christ being the stone that was rejected, and how in the New Testament talks about he is the chief cornerstone of the Church of Christ. Today's quote meal comes from a person called Ovid, O-V-I-D. And this is, I like this. I really do. Because we've been talking at our congregation, we've been talking more how we can be more evangelistic in the Northeast. And basically, we just got to get out there for one thing. But Ovid says, let your hook always be cast. In the pool where you least expect it will be a fish. I think far too often we as Christians, we look at people, oh, they won't accept the gospel, or this person won't, or this group of people won't accept the gospel. And I've been guilty of that myself. And that's not what we're to be about. We're to share the gospel with folks so they can make a decision in their lives like we made decisions in our lives to share the gospel with somebody else. Today's short Bible lesson comes from Al, and is by Al Shannon of biblicalproof.wordpress.com. And I read through the article. It's a very good article here, and I get in discussions with denominational pastors all the time about this when it comes up. Not every day, but when I talk to them, I ask them why they use that title every chance I get. The difference between a pastor and a preacher. Now Al goes through the article and he talks about the biblical terms of a preacher and a pastor, and then he talks about how it's used in the church, and he's talked about how it's used in the world. And so it's very enlightening if you're interested in those, in that train of thought there. Why, my mom goes to a Methodist church out in Ohio, and she calls I would call him a preacher, but they call him a pastor. But he's not part of an eldership. So biblically, that doesn't make sense. And, a lot of denominations out there call their preachers pastors because they're doing the work of an elder without being part of an eldership. And I think words matter. I think titles matter also. All right. Since I started with the story, let me keep going with this story here about the 7 baffling moments from Donald Trump's AP interview by Alana Horowitz Satlin. And she posted this on the 24th, which was yesterday. And but it was about an interview that took place on Friday. I'm sorry, folks. The coffee is particularly good this morning. It really is. Real side note, and I want to go down this rabbit hole. I have been making my own coffee creamer. And I know some people are like, well, that's not a big deal. You just get half and half and put it in your coffee. Well, I like mine flavored a little bit, and I like it a little bit thicker than half and half, but I don't like it as thick as whipping cream. So what I do in, I think it's a 24-ounce bottle, I put a small pint of whipping cream, and then I put a tablespoon. I think I'm going to increase it to 2 tablespoons of pure vanilla extract, none of this imitation garbage, and put it in there, and then top it off with half and half. Now, it's not too thick, but it's not too thin, and it does a great job. And folks, I'm sorry if I rant about my coffee a little bit. All right. 7 baffling, okay, moments on the AP interview. Now, I need to get over there. I want to click on the link that actually goes to that to bring it up on my webpage. over here. Hopefully it looks like everything's working coming out to the internet. Looks good. I cannot, for some reason, when I have my Audacity up on my desktop, which is a Linux, and then I put let's see here, properties. All right, well, like I said, I am recording this, so we might have to go back and redo the, there it comes back up again. Okay, I don't know why that would have stopped like that. Anyway, this is the AP transcript, the website for, on AP. This is the whole transcript. It has some audio clips on that, so it has some audio clips, but they're not the clips of the interview. They are just what Julia Price has said was in the interview. And they talk about at the top the transcript in the Oval Office interview Friday with President Donald Trump and AP White House correspondent Julie Pace, where the audio recording of the interview was unclear, ellipses or a notation that the recording was unintelligible are used. Okay, so we know that there's an audio recording. At least I'm pretty sure there is. I'm pretty sure there's an audio recording out there somewhere. Okay, but for whatever reasons, we're not able to get that from the report. And like I said, this is very, very frustrating to me. That we can't get a copy of at least the audio, because they're talking on AP audio. I was hoping there might be a video of it, but even if there's an audio of it, we still should be able to get the audio. Okay, And we're not. Like I said, I've been asking. Now, I want to bring this up, and let me see if I can do the same thing here. F11. Now, you're going to see my full feed here as far as my Twitter, on my notifications, but I want you to take particular note of the top ones. If you can, I don't know if you can zoom in on that or not, but this is my sort of small conversation I have with Alana Horowitz Satlin. Okay. The first one, I asked her if there was a audio video that she used to, in her for the story on that. She goes, as far as I know, there isn't an audio video online, and that's not a confirmation, just as far as she knows. Okay. And then I asked her if they had one, and she says, no, you have to contact AP Julie Pace. I said, okay. And then I asked her, I said, did you corroborate that with an audio, or try to corroborate this with an audio? And she says, well, I got the transcript from AP, and I trust they wouldn't fabricate raw quotes. Good way to get sued. Plus, the White House doesn't dispute its accuracy. Okay, the White House doesn't dispute its accuracy, but that doesn't mean it's accurate. I want to see it for myself before I would report on it, saying this is what he said and it's so coherent, and I want Article 25, Article 25 hearing on the mental incapacitation of President Donald Trump by Kimberly and her minions and so many other people online. And I asked her, I said, well, so you didn't corroborate this transcript with an audio of it? And she said in her last tweet up there, she said, and I just put the full thing up there for you. I asked her at the beginning, can you send me a copy of the audio or video Julie Pace from AP would have, and then about 7 baffling moments from Donald Trump's AP interview. So she wrote it, so she should know it. And she said, as far as I know, there isn't any audio video online. And then I asked, is there one that can be sent out? You'd have to contact AP Julie Pace. This was her response to me. I said, can I ask, how did you verify the transcript you based your story on? And she said, I got it from AP, and I trust that they wouldn't fabricate raw quotes. Good way to get sued. Plus, the White House didn't dispute its accuracy. So then I asked, well, thanks for getting back to me. Still, wouldn't you want to verify by listening to the audio or seeing the video of the interview? And her final response was, just reading that incoherent diatribe was enough for my brain this week. Thanks. And that was for all intents and purposes, Huffington Post purports themselves to be journalists and a news source, and yet one of their reporters, one of their article, manufacturers out there, just said, just reading the incoherent diatribe was enough for my brain this week. Thanks. So she told me in her own words there that she did not corroborate the story. Didn't get the interview. Didn't get anything with that to corroborate whether or not Donald Trump said what he was going to say. And that amazes me. And this happens far too often in the lamestream media, and sometimes in the new Main Street media. That it happens far too often. And it baffles me that people would do this. And what baffles me the most is that these minions out there that follow these fake news stories that have a foregone conclusion about Donald Trump, that he is the devil incarnate, if you ask some of them, and that everything he does is whatever he does. I don't care if Donald Trump himself found the cure for cancer and distributed it to the whole world so we would never see cancer again. They would be unhappy about it. They would be unhappy about it. And they would find some reason to be unhappy about it and put a spin on it. And it just, again, folks, just like Dave made a comment, and this sort of goes along with the same ideology we're talking about here and the reasoning I'm going through. Dave said, I was always surprised at how comfortable folks are with putting the future of the church in the hands of a single man who they call the pastor. They take no personal responsibility. And we have. And this is why when I have a chance to talk to a denominational pastor, I ask him about that. Why do you use that term? Matter of fact, when I was an elder, and back when I was an elder, it was our habit, even if we had to take time off of work, if there was a funeral or if a member was getting married or something like that, we wanted to be there, show our support. And and that was just what we did in our eldership. I'm sure other elderships do that and more, and we did more. But it was one of those things, and especially at the funeral, we'd have the funeral home folks come up there, and almost to a man, or sometimes there was women there. Our preacher, didn't matter whether who it was at the time, always called him minister. And okay, I can maybe understand that, but almost every time our preachers actually, I'm not a minister. I'm a preacher, or I'm an evangelist. It was one of those two things, and they always downplayed that term minister. And that's one of those things, that you can be said to be a minister of something because that is used in the New Testament. However, I think a more accurate term for men would be a preacher or an evangelist, just like a pastor is another term for an elder or shepherd or bishop or presbytery, or in the New Testament. But it always talks about a group. It never talks about a single one. And so when you're talking about eternity, when you're talking about getting things right for eternity, wouldn't you want to take what you hear from somebody and back it up with Scripture? Scripture that's in context. Act like you're from Missouri. Show me. Because you're talking about your eternal existence. And folks, you only get one shot at getting it right, honestly. You only get one shot. You only get one life. There's no do-overs once you're dead. And folks, this same principle of showing me, you can tell me something, but show me and back it up in Scripture. When it comes to something scriptural or something spiritual, something religious. The same thing with these news stories that are being put out there, especially this one. And I am directly challenging not only Huffington Post, but AP to show me the audio. Let me have a copy of the audio so I can listen to it for myself. And I promise I'm not going to edit it. As far as taking things out, I might try to clean things up where they say it's you can't hear things or anything like that, which, folks, can I back the card up just a little bit? AP, if you go on their site, and I went on their site, they claim to be a very technologically advanced news agency. Why would this has me scratching my head and wondering also, why would a reporter go into the White House itself to talk to the President of the United States of America with a recording device that isn't working right? Now, it's understandable. I'm still working out bugs on my system here. And it's understandable that sometimes I'm going to have issues here. Like I've just found out this morning that when I have my Audacity on my broadcasting desktop, my PC, and I turn on my Open Broadcaster Studio, it does something funky to the Audacity. Now I got to do some research on that. But in the meantime, like I said, I'm going to be looking for a good used external recorder to record the show on, and then I can use Audacity to edit it from there. That way I'm not using up resources on my computer, and I know I'm going to get a good recording every time. So, but getting back from that, that's me. I'm on literally a shoestring budget here with this show. But you have a news company, AP, that sends a reporter, and I'll say her name again, Julie Pace, the AP Washington, D.C. correspondent, to the White House with faulty equipment that can't record the audio correctly. Okay. And look, folks, I know we all have bad days, and to err is human, but to really foul up, you need technology. I understand that. But even if the audio isn't the best, wouldn't it be better for AP to release that? And even if the transcripts are true and he is incoherent and it wasn't, and whoever transcribed them wasn't taking some editorial liberty. That's why I had a little problem with what Miss Satlin said about, I got it from AP and I trust they wouldn't fabricate raw quotes. Good way to get sued. When did that ever stop CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, and all these other news outlets? BuzzFeed's been caught, fake news. Snopes been caught putting out fake fact-checking. PolitiFact has done the same thing. Washington Post, New York Times, LA Times have all been caught putting out fake news. And no one sued them. They're not afraid of being sued. They'll hide behind the First Amendment and they'll just say it was an editorial decision. So that when I first read that, that was the first thing that popped in my mind. Well, all you guys got to do is claim it's an editorial decision. It wasn't fabricating quotes. And I'm not saying that Julie Pace is fabricating quotes. I just want to check a second source confirmation for the transcript before I would go and say things like, in this news article real quick, shunning reality, Trump said he's mostly there on fulfilling the promises of his first 100 days. And they go on to talk about, with the 100-day mark looming on April 29th, the president has fallen short on every one of his legislative goals he set last year in his 100-day action plan. Most notably, the Republican health care bill that Trump championed extensively went down in flames. Now, again, let's get this accurate. He talked about repealing Obamacare. This bill that they're talking about is actually Ryan Care, because nothing hit the president's desk yet. Nothing hit the president's desk yet. He didn't sign his name to it. And so all these lamestream media outlets out there are calling it Trump Care. It's not Trump Care yet. He didn't do anything with it. Now, Obama, before the ACA was put into effect, I know there was a lot of people calling it Obamacare, but technically it wasn't until he signed it. It was Democrat Care at the time, or the Affordable Care Act, ACA. So right there, just in that one paragraph there, they got it wrong. Now they'll say that, well, that was just we're editorializing on that. Well, you know what? If the facts are out there and they're known and they are confirmed facts, why don't you report the facts? Why don't you report those facts? Trump claimed he never supported WikiLeaks despite having repeatedly said otherwise. Again, these are some things that I want to look into with the audio and compare it to the transcripts. And I'm sorry that I don't trust Alana or Huffington Post or Julie Pace or Kimberly Eaton or all her minions. I'm sorry I don't trust you and take your word that this transcript is gospel. Because when you do that, that's when you really get in a lot of trouble. When you start going that way. Now, Trump said the Electoral College is very difficult for a Republican to win because it's so skewed towards Democrats. And they said it's not. It absolutely is. And this is another one that's actually, that you can find out that is factual, that the Electoral College is skewed towards Democrats because, and this is the reason why, and they never tell you this, is that most states that have Republican strongholds, and I'll tell you about Pennsylvania. You have Philadelphia, you have Pittsburgh, you have Scranton, Wilkes-Barre area, and maybe you can consider the metropolitan area of Erie, PA, out in northeastern PA. But and some people do include that as a Democratic stronghold up in that way. But in Pennsylvania, it's winner takes all. So if you get more Electoral College votes as a Democrat, and you get more than you do the Republican, you get to claim the Republicans also. And this is the first election in many presidential elections that Pennsylvania has actually gone for the Republican. So please tell me how, in Huffington Post article here, talking with this transcript, that it's very difficult for Republicans to win because it's so skewed towards Democrats, which it absolutely is. Now, they don't want people to know that. They like the system the way it is. They like not being able to verify votes with voter ID, and they lie about that all the time, saying it suppresses votes. When you have the best example I can give you is Indiana, where after they passed their voter ID laws and they're in effect, the actual minority vote actually came up, and when they asked people why, the minorities to a person said, "Well, now I feel my vote counts." My vote counts. So again, they're skewing the facts in this interview. And like I said, that's why I want the audio. I don't want to believe these guys, Huffington Post especially. I don't want to take them at face value. He admitted that he bashed NATO during the presidential campaign. He didn't actually know what the alliance did. He also erroneously said that back when they did NATO, there was no such thing as terrorism. I dare say, if you would ask the folks at Huffington Post if they know what NATO actually does, I dare say you probably couldn't find only a handful of folks there, if that many, that know exactly what NATO does. I know what it used to do after World War II, but I don't know what it does now. I don't know what its purpose is for now. We're not in the Cold War anymore. Russia is not our enemy. Why is it? What does NATO do? I think President Trump has a pretty good question in there about that. Describing a meeting with Representative Elijah Cummings, Democrat Maryland, Trump offered the following words salad. Well, he said, "You'll be the greatest president in history of, but you know what? I'll take that also, but that you could be." But he said, and again, it's totally incoherent here. And I've listened to Donald Trump speak off the cuff, and he's not this incoherent. So again, I want to listen to the video to compare it to the transcript, folks. He claimed the U.S.-Mexico border wall is not going to be that expensive. And folks, it's not out of the total budget. And you can go research this. I was watching One American News Network this morning. Out of the total budget, the total federal budget to build the wall, it's only 0.035% of the total, $4 trillion budget. Very, very small. Matter of fact, Ted Cruz yesterday, I was watching on Facebook, and I read some other stories, second source confirmation that he said this, that they've seized enough money from Guzman, the drug lord that they captured and brought up, that they have enough money frozen here that they could actually take that money and actually build the wall and probably have money left to spare. And wouldn't have to take it out of the national treasury, as it were. Good idea to me. Good idea to me. And there's good reasons to build the wall besides immigration. It would slow down the drugs coming through here. It would be a huge obstacle for the drug lords of Mexico to come up here. And please, tell me what Mexico's doing about these drug lords to slow the drugs coming up here. Questions that need to be answered. So there was a lot of things. There was a lot of things that I question about. If you read through the transcript, and like I said, I do have a link to the transcript up there. It is very lengthy. Let me see here on a Word document. It's 14 pages at font number 12, New Times Roman, or Times New Roman font. And it's very incoherent. And like I said, I've heard President Trump talk off the cuff, and he's not this incoherent. He just is not. Not like, folks, not like former President Obama. I was listening to his, it's a little over an hour, and his first public address that was out in Chicago the other day. So I listened to it, to be fair with him. And he doesn't have a teleprompter up there. And President Obama struggles when he doesn't have a teleprompter up there. I mean, struggles mightily when he doesn't have a teleprompter up there. So to say, like I said, I've heard Donald Trump, and he's not that incoherent. So that's what makes me question the whole thing. And I don't want to dwell the whole show on this, but I think this is very, very important. I think this is a teachable moment here. That you have those on the left, and we've been talking about this for a couple weeks now, and I'll continue to harp on it. We have these people on the left. Or should I say, getting back to the Overton window, you have people on the bottom, the less freedom people. You have the less freedom people that have already made up their minds about Donald Trump, and that have already made up either make up facts, cherry pick facts, or really don't care about the facts whatsoever. And this is what's happening with this story here. Miss Satlin doesn't really care to corroborate with audio. She's already made it up in her mind how President Trump is, and that nothing's going to change her mind about that. And she's not acting like a journalist. She's not getting second source confirmation and comparing things. I doubt, and this is in my heart of hearts, folks, I doubt that AP is going to release that audio. They don't have to. They absolutely don't have to, but I doubt they're going to release it. And I'm going to keep, I won't hound them about it, but I'm going to keep emailing. I'm going to keep tweeting Julie Pace, because she hasn't got back to me yet. She could be reporting. I don't know. I'm not in that huge of a hurry about it. But I will report if she does send me back something. I will have another report on that, just to let you know what's going on. So it's, like I said, this is a teachable moment, folks, where you have a whole group of people, the less freedom folks in the country, those that are for bigger government, wanting to take more of your tax dollars, do their charitable work, those folks there that don't care about the facts. This transcript fits a narrative that they already put forth in their minds, and they already have made up in their minds. It puts forth a narrative. And because it puts forth this narrative, it doesn't matter if they confirm it. Oh, I believe it. It's the gospel truth, whether we can prove it or not. And I don't know if we're ever going to be able to prove it. If they don't release the audio, they can't prove it. And then you have these articles like this that you can actually go back. It's not bashing, but you can hold them accountable. How can you say these things when you haven't even confirmed it through compare the transcript with the audio? Well, in my heart of hearts, Donald Trump is mentally ill to begin with, and this transcript just proves that he's mentally ill. And I trust the AP. They wouldn't do this. They wouldn't fabricate these quotes because they could be sued. And please, give me a break. Give me a break. I got a couple other, I only have a few minutes here. I still got 12 minutes. I'm doing good here. I got two articles that I want to just touch on today. One, real quick here. This was a breaking story yesterday from Federalist Papers. And I was watching on the news. There were some news items on that. I didn't see much on it this morning on the lamestream media anyway, because it was protesters storm Heritage Foundation. Now, Heritage Foundation is a Washington think tank. It's private. It's not public, as far as governmental or anything like that. It's on private property. And the protesters stormed the Heritage Foundation. The Daily Caller posted a Facebook live video, and it's out there. You can get the links. I'm pretty sure maybe there wasn't links in this one. I'll have to try to link let me write a note down here. Link Daily Caller Heritage video. Okay, I'll do that in the show notes page. But anyway, I was watching this on Facebook and elsewhere that they had this video. They were chanting and shouting protest of the President GOP's Congress proposed budget. The budget proposal includes large cuts to the Environmental Protection Agency, among other cuts to agencies dealing with the environment, disaster programs, a proposal that which the leftists which has the leftists in a fit. And I talked about this before on the show, where The Environmental Protection Agency is not a constitutional bureaucracy. It never should have been enacted to begin with because it's not a enumerated power that the government was granted by the states in the Constitution. So that should go, so along with the Department of Education, Department of Energy, Department of the Interior. A lot of these bureaucracies are unconstitutional. Of course, those folks on the less freedom folks out there, on the Overton window, less freedom folks out there, they don't care about that. You know, they don't care about if it's constitutional or not. And I've said this before, and you can go do your own research. All 50 states, and including the territories that we control as United States of America, have their own EPA at the state level that does a better job of doing things than the states. Okay? So it lasted about 10, 15 minutes until security was finally able to contain the situation. And folks, the less freedom folks out there, the Black Lives Matter, the Antifa movement, the watermelon environmentalists out there, instead of debating this in the public square, it's in their minds the EPA is the best thing since sliced bread. And to defund that, you're going to dirty up the water, you're going to dirty up the air, which couldn't be further from the truth, because they won't go out and look at the facts. You know, like I said, each state has their own EPA that does a really good job of protecting the environment that's in each state. That doesn't need to have a redundancy at the federal level. There is no constitutional authority to have the EPA at the national level. So I'm going to follow up on this today and try to find out, you know, hopefully some of these people are going to be arrested because this was private property. They had no business coming in there and protesting the way they did and taking over that building. And, you know, we're talking about trespassing and private property rights here. They were talking about... And this is a funny thing, too. Some of the protesters there were talking about, you know, protesting at the Heritage Foundation, you know, about keeping the EPA. Where was the EPA during this Flint, Michigan crisis? And this is some of the protesters talking about this, but they made no mention of the recent grant to help with this crisis. And they make no mention that Flint, Michigan is another one of those Democratic strongholds, has been for years. Where did all the money and people pay their water bills in Flint, Michigan? Where did all that money go to maintain the facilities that the people are actually paying for? It's just like out in California. Oh, we got to raise the gas tax so we can pay for roads and stuff like that. I bet you $1 a dozen donuts, not all that money, or a very small portion of that money, is actually going to go to fix the roads. The rest of it is going to go for social engineering out in California, because that's their modus operandi. That's their standard operating procedure out in California. So my question is, where were all these non-freedom, or these lower freedom folks, non-freedom folks, I'm going to start calling them, when the Democrats were in control and still are in Flint, Michigan, and all that money that the residents are actually paying for water, they're actually being poisoned by these folks? Where were the protesters then? And there's a comment in the YouTube, on my YouTube channel. Good morning, Grace. How you doing? It sounds exactly like Trump. Well, I'm sorry, Grace. I've listened to a lot of video with Trump. I've listened to a lot of off-the-cuff interviews, and it doesn't sound like Trump. And I'm not a Trump supporter. You can ask Dave in the chat room. I'm not a Trump supporter. Matter of fact, I'm a member of the Constitution Party. Maybe you're new to the show. I'm a member of the Constitution Party. I voted for Darrell Castle in the last presidential election because I think he would have made the best president out of all of them running. Way better than Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. But I'm going to be fair with everybody. And like I said, I've listened to Donald Trump speak off the cuff, and I tried to read through this transcript. It was very hard to read through the transcript, and it doesn't sound like the Donald Trump I'm used to listening to. The job of the government: build more prisons, save more fetuses, and uncover Viagra medicine for men. Sorry, no. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, that's not the job of the government. Grace, you need to go back and read the Constitution and exactly see what the job of the federal government is. And you need to make a distinction between the federal government, the state governments, and the local governments. And you need to get the idea, and this is where the Founding Fathers came in, that the people are sovereign above the state or the federal government. Because without the people, you don't have the state or the federal government. And the states were created first. The states were created first, and then the states, through the Constitutional Convention, created the federal government, enumerated the powers, and limited the powers of the federal government. What we have today is nothing. Nothing. With the Constitution and all the amendments of the Constitution, our government today looks nothing like what the Constitution says our government is supposed to be. And that's verifiable, second source confirmed facts that you can go look up. So the job of the government is not to build more prisons and save more fetuses and uncover ED medication for men. That's a totally incoherent example of what I'm talking about with this transcript the AP did. It made no sense. That's why I want to hear. Is there a problem? And I'm asking Grace and Dave and anybody else out there that wants to chime in on this. Is there an issue with me wanting to get a hold of the audio of this and listening for myself and comparing it to the transcript? Is there something inherently evil about that or wrong about that? Come on, folks. I mean, and Grace, you can answer the question in the YouTube chat room if you want. Is there something evil about me asking for a copy of the video so I can compare it for myself to the transcript? Or should I just take the transcript at face value and not care about getting a second source confirmation and potentially make myself look like a fool because I ran with a story that I couldn't confirm? And that's why I'm talking about this today. There's a couple other articles in the show notes that's going to be on the show notes page right after the show. Brent Bozell and Tim Graham over at cnsnews.com talks about Trump's 100 days of media hostility, and it has been. And I think that's an understatement. 100 days of media hostility. I think that's an acute understatement by Brent Bozell. And I'm telling you what, Brent Bozell and his Media Research Center and Judicial Watch and those folks, he does a fantastic job as a watchdog for the government. I think he's understating the whole thing about the 100 days of media hostility, and it has been. The lamestream media has been so hostile. The less freedom crowd out there has been so hostile towards Donald Trump and his administration that, like I said before, if Donald Trump came up with the cure for cancer and gave it out for free to everybody that had cancer in the world, and maybe it's a vaccine that prevents cancer, the less freedom crowd out there would still find out something. They would still twist it some way to make Donald Trump look bad and make themselves look good. And thank you, Grace. I want to hear the audio. Yeah, I want to hear the audio too. I can't find it. As far as I know, it's not on the internet. And all we have are clips of Julie Pace standing out in front of the White House saying what she talked about with Donald Trump. Okay, you went and interviewed Donald Trump. You're with the AP. Where's the audio? We may never get it. We may never get the audio to see. Like I said, I've listened to Donald Trump before, and quite honest, folks, like I said, I don't agree with, there's a lot of things I don't agree with him. I don't agree with what he's doing with the tariff on the lumber coming in from Canada. I don't agree with his trade ideas. I don't agree with his economic ideas. I don't agree with his foreign policy. I do agree with his immigration. I do agree with the wall. Those are enumerated powers the federal government has, especially the president has at his disposal to help protect our country. I believe in a strong military, but I don't believe in empire building like we're doing now. That's part of the foreign policy. So there's a lot of things I do disagree with him on. I don't just do it to make me look better or make me look like an outsider. I've always had these ideas for, well, let's go back to 2008 when I started this program, and when Lindsey Graham and John McCain were talking about immigration and amnesty and stuff like that. Just made me just mad about that. There's another story in there by Aaron Bandler from DailyWilder.com. Here's what Trump said he got done in the first 100 days, and here's what he actually done. Now, I want to finish up the show here real quick about the 100-day thing. Every person, every man so far and woman that's ran for the presidency of the United States has said what they're going to do or what they want to accomplish in their first 100 days. Anybody and I'm serious about this, folks, anybody out there that takes that as gospel, that it's concrete, that they're going to get this done in the first 100 days is, let's put it this way, their cornbread isn't baked all the way through, if you understand my meaning of this. Their cornbread is absolutely not baked all the way through. Now, has Trump accomplished some things? Yes. Has Trump been thwarted by some federal judges in his immigration? Yes, he has, but they're going to take it to the Supreme Court. They have 9 justices on the Supreme Court now, and this latest one about Sanctuary City, where a very liberal judge out in California has put a halt to the defunding of the sanctuary cities, and so Trump just said we'll see in Supreme Court, and honestly, that's where that needs to go. And I think once these things get to the Supreme Court, I think you're going to see that the Supreme Court will be on Donald Trump's side. This has been the Dan Clements Show. I'm your host, Dan Clements, your constitutional warrior. Remember, if you aim at nothing, you hit it every time. Have a great rest of the day, folks, and God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow at noon.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.